Previously on McCashin and Martin. But when somebody's getting an award, granted it's a political organization, it's a political event, but it is still an award for this guy, an acknowledgement to say, hey, we think you're a good guy. Gibson has gotten it in the past. Steve Bulger, the new economic guy down in New York, who's...
Does he work for SBA? Linda McMahon? Does he have to wrestle? Does he have to wear a unitard?
You know what? I think I saw something under his suit. Is that, you think that's what it could have been? It looked like
a wrestler. He's big enough to be a wrestler.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask him next time I see him. SBA, he could be a wrestler. What would be his moniker?
What's the SBA do?
Government man.
Government man. Yeah, loan man. Small business
loan man. Well, he works in New York City and up in this area.
So it's got to be a region, right?
It's a regional thing. So I don't think he has Puerto Rico.
Now,
upstate New York.
Isn't New York Puerto Rico?
Well, for everything else, I think Social Security. The Jamaica Queen's office, I think, does Puerto Rico. For Social Security, many federal organizations base themselves out of New York City. So they'll do New York State and Puerto Rico.
How come Puerto Rico isn't independent or a state?
Or a state, because they always vote to be exactly what they are. They got the best of both worlds.
So why don't we vote them off the island? All these communists for years have talked about these independence movements. The Democrats have controlled the White House. How come Obama didn't liberate them? Actually, Bulger is the SBA regional administrator for Region 2, the area that encompasses New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
So he is Puerto Rico.
Did he have a tan?
Not yet.
Yeah, that's...
See, but he's new. He's new into the job.
Well,
so he'll have to have Puerto Rico in the wintertime. But see, we're coming into spring. So we'll catch him next winter.
So the Small Business Administration, they don't have to pay, Puerto Ricans don't have to pay the taxes that we have to pay, but they get the benefits of SBA loans?
They get the Postal Service. They get everything. They get everything.
You know what Puerto Rico was all about, really? It was Rockefeller was in there sterilizing people. We'll do a whole show on Puerto Rico if you want. Slave labor and sterilization.
Yeah. Puerto Rico is an odd thing. Well, we took it away from the Spaniards in the Spanish-American War.
Why don't we give it back? I don't understand. We went through the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Give it
we
to
had
Cuba.
All these liberals. Let them go on their own. Now we're rebuilding it.
Somehow, this is what I don't understand. So somehow the laws are they get to choose what they want to be. It seems odd.
Yeah, self-determination. We determined ourselves to be
the best of both
irresponsible.
worlds.
To be irresponsible.
Yeah, they're a lot like Guam. Guam is the same.
Yeah. Unlimited immigration within the law, but you would have to have assimilation. So you'd have to decide what America is.
It would have to be the old style immigration where people were coming to this country
to become Americans.
To become Americans because they wanted to better themselves, not to be on welfare. The less welfare we have, the better it is. And then you could have open immigration.
I contend that you could have open borders if you had no welfare.
Milton Friedman said,
I have always been amused by a kind of a paradox. Suppose you go around and ask people, the United States, as you know, before 1914 had completely free immigration. Anybody could get on a boat and come to these shores, and if he landed on Ellis Island, he was an immigrant. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? You will find hardly a soul who will say it was a bad thing. Almost everybody will say it was a good thing. But then I suppose I say to the same people, but now what about today? Do you think we should have free immigration? Oh, no, they'll say, we couldn't possibly have free immigration today. That would flood us with immigrants from India and God knows where. We'd be driven down to a bare subsistence level. What's the difference? How can people be so inconsistent? Why is it that free immigration was a good thing before 1914 and free immigration is a bad thing today? Well, there's a sense in which that answer is right. There's a sense in which free immigration, in the same sense as we had it before 1914, is not possible today. Why not? Because it is one thing to have free immigration to jobs. It is another thing to have free immigration to welfare. And you cannot have both. If you have a welfare state, if you have a state in which every resident is promised certain minimum level of income or a minimum level of subsistence regardless, of whether he works or not, produces it or not, well, then it really is an impossible thing. If you have free immigration in the way in which we had it before 1914, everybody benefited. The people who were here benefited. The people who came benefited. Because nobody would come unless he or his family thought he would do better here than he would elsewhere. And the new immigrants provided additional resources, provided additional possibilities for the people already here. So everybody could mutually benefit. But on the other hand, if you come under circumstances where each person is entitled to a pro rata share of the pot, to take the extreme example, or even to a low level of the pot, then the effect of that situation is that free immigration would mean a reduction of everybody to the same uniform level.
In a libertarian, no welfare country, you do have open borders because people would be coming into the country just to better themselves, and that's who you want.
Yeah.
You don't want chain migration of mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and sister and brother, and they're all on welfare.
Yeah.
And that's what we got now.
Quote unquote Native Americans, guys like us or any of these people who need to borrow money from the Small Business Administration and Bulger, don't feel that there's economic opportunity. They feel diminishing economic opportunity, largely because unequal distribution of wealth. I mean, you're redistributing money. It makes no sense. That has nothing to do with protecting life, liberty, and property.
When my grandfather came in, his brother, who'd come here in 1910, my grandfather came in 22, my great uncle had to show that my grandfather was going to have a job and was going to have housing, and all of this had to happen within 6 months of his getting
and maybe
in here.
Maybe it does need. Maybe it happens now. I don't think so. When my production worker, who was a Burmese Muslim refugee, USCRI came, RC, became citizen. He knew the citizenship test and everything better than all my employees. All the Americans. So they were on their way.
And he was, it seems, industrious. I met him once.
Well-dressed.
Yes, you seem to be industrious. That's the kind of guy you want.
The question with Puerto Rico is, if we need a naval base there, in the best interest of taxpayers, I don't know what sort of revenue sink Puerto Rico is, but if we need a base there, why don't we just lease it from their government? Why are small business owners and taxpayers in Troy, New York subsidizing Puerto Rico? Because we need a base? Well, pay the lease for the base and dump the loser aspect of it. Bastiat's the law. It was the law perverted. Now, instead of the law being used to protect life, liberty, and property, the law is being used to rob people. And so you're robbing productive people, and you're undermining for everyone to become better off. If you want freedom, if we truly live in a free society, which I would hope everybody wants to live in the freest society possible, otherwise you're on a different planet. You want to live in the freest society possible because you want to maximize virtue and your ability to become a self-realized individual. You can't live at the expense of other people. The more the government robs you of money, the less opportunity you have to produce goods and things of value for other people to make society overall better. That's just a basic first principle you should keep in mind.
The other person who was there, and we've mentioned her a couple of times, was Mary Beth Walsh. She's an assemblywoman now. And she got a job with the county attorney's office. And so she came to this job, never really having been an attorney. And I say this, did she pass the bar? Yes, she did. Did she go to law school? Yes, she did. She was just effectively a corporate attorney for her husband. So when she got to the county attorney's office, remember the county attorney is to look at contracts, fine. She would be qualified for that. They're also the prosecutors, if you will, in juvenile cases. They prosecute juvenile crime.
For family court?
For family court, in family court.
The county attorney?
The county attorney does that.
That's a weird one.
Not the DA.
Wow.
Yeah, odd. So she gets there. She had no idea what to do in court.
Like court procedure?
She had no idea how to file things.
Was she the county attorney?
No, not the. There are about 4 or 5 in there that
are they full-time?
Full-time.
Yeah. Back
Back in the day when the county was smaller, there'd be part-time, and even the county attorney, he was part-time. The last 10, 15 years, it's been full-time. We're in there. So she wasn't the only one, but she'd have to she'd have to find out and have people go with her to hold hands with her. And she wasn't at work a whole lot of times. So what's the best thing to do? Promote her to be in the assembly. If you're in the assembly, nobody knows if you're there or not because there's so many Democrats in there. I think the Democrats are like 3,000 to 2 Republicans.
Correct.
Whatever.
So somebody once described being a Republican in the assembly as like being a stripper, where it's a lot of money for doing nothing.
Buddy McLaughlin.
I guess that would apply to him too. But he made noise. I never even heard of this woman. And granted, I'm not up in this district. I never heard of her, but I heard of Jim Tedesco. I mean, not that he does anything too valuable.
Buster's Law. Jim Tedesco, Buster's Law.
Pets over people.
Well, he knew how to game the system where she's got to still learn that. And that shows you how naive she is, that she doesn't know, oh, I'm going to come up with some legislation that make it illegal for people to...
For what?
Well, this is how they game the system. They put in legislation that gets them
publicity
in front of the public, gets them in the paper.
Yeah.
And Tedesco was great at that and still is pretty good at that. So she needs to do that. Not that she's going to come up with anything.
She's the mother. Her Wikipedia entry, this is hilarious. Yeah. She's the mother of 6. Walsh and her husband have a blended family.
Yeah, modern.
What the hell's a blended family? You got kids from a past marriage?
Yes,
Where did this term come into? Blended family.
Exactly.
Come on.
You got step family, you got step kids, the step mom.
Was blended mean interracial?
No, Walsh is he's a big political operative. He's been around, but he's useless too.
You look at Hainer. Hainer got defeated in the Republican primary, I remember years ago or whatever. Must have been when like Bob Prentice and those guys were around.
Well, Bob Prentice lost to Riley. Riley was the one who had it for a long time, and he was a Democrat.
And was he replaced by,
Riley was a
McDonald's
Democrat.
Seat?
That was no. This was Bob Prentice's seat.
Yeah, I know.
Bob Prentice lost to Riley. Riley had it. Then after Riley had
Tedesco?
It's a kaleidoscope. It just you keep
shifting
it, and it just keeps
like
shifting all of it. Okay, we got to say goodbye.
Bye-bye.